Are you all in? Dacha How, Wosha Michael Larson, Wosha Nieman de Pungyu. Hello, everybody. This is Mike Larson from BBC IML, and this is A Moment with Mike. So, when I was young, back when I was probably between 8 and 16 years old, well, even younger than that, I started probably when I was 5 years old. I played hockey and enjoyed it very much. And I believe I was a pretty good hockey player. I played defense. I played every position at one time or another. But about 3-4 years into playing hockey, I decided to play goalie once, just to see what it was about. And I was all into it. I was sure I could do a great job. And I played the game, and actually the game I played, one of the guys that's on right now, Chad Lennox, was on the other team, but but I was goalie that game, and we actually won the game. I played goalie one other game, and we won that game about 6-3. And then another one of my friends, Rod Cook, joined the team. And he wanted to play goalie, and he was very good. He had a lot of shutouts actually that year, so I didn't play it anymore, and I played other positions. And then that summer, after that, we got into a league called VMIA, Victory Memorial Ice Arena, but my father used to call it very mediocre in sports. He'd like to joke with me about that, But Rodney also joined that team with me, and we played summer hockey. And I played, most of the time I played defense, but sometimes I'd play forward. And the season went along, and I could play that position of defense pretty good. And then I had Rodney behind me that hardly ever let a goal go by. It was just crazy. We had a really good team. And going along, and I saw him having so much fun that my heart kind of got into maybe I should try goalie again. But I also saw the way he played. He could kick his feet out real easy and all of that. But he agreed to let me play, and that was a disaster. I think we lost that game. They scored about 10 goals on me. And the next week, I went and played center. And in that game, I had a hat trick. I scored 3 goals inside of 2 minutes. And I knew I could play that position, and I knew I could skate as fast or faster than anybody on the ice. So my heart was in it, but also my head was in it. And I think back to that time, and when I first played goalie, my head and my heart was in it because I was good at defense and I was good at all the other positions I had played. So there was no reason for me to believe that I wasn't going to be good at goalie too, and I was very good. And then Rodney came along, and he was even better than I was. And then that time, my head wasn't in it that second time because I saw the way he did it, and in the back of my mind, I thought I wouldn't be able to do that, but my heart wanted to have fun like he did doing it. So I didn't do well. But the next week, I knew I could play that center position as well as anybody did. My heart was in it, and my head was in it, and I played it very well and got a hat trick in that game. The understanding of this is the law of polarity. So think of the law of polarity as a battery. If all of everything in the battery is lined up perfectly from positive to negative, the electric flow will go through there perfectly. And if you take some batteries, and let's just say you have a flashlight that takes 4 batteries, if you line up all the batteries in that flashlight, it gives you more and more power. And when they're all lined up, the power all goes in one direction all the way through there, and it lights up that flashlight. And because there's 4 batteries, it'll last much longer. So you have to think of yourself as a battery. And you have to think of yourself as your mind and your heart as the polarity. So law of polarity states that everything has to be in balance. If everything in the universe is not in balance, the universe would collapse on itself. It has to be balanced. So things that are opposite are really part of one. So the opposite of love is loneliness, but they're part of one. You're either in love or you're lonely. It's nothing else. It's one of those two. And The opposite is always true. So if there's something in your life that's going on and it's good, the bad is also obvious and it's very close. It's just a simple mind switch from one to the other. If you're having a bad time in your life, the polarity is still there and the opposite is true. The good is right there also. It's part of it. It's just a mind change. So polarity within you, you have to have your heart and you have to have your head into it. So many people get their heart into it, but they really can't get their head into it, and because of subconscious thought. We have these feelings that maybe we're just not good enough. This is what we really want. We're really excited about it. Our heart is in it, but we have doubt about ourselves. And the second you have doubt, you turn those batteries around and you have negative against negative, and positive is opposite. And the energy of the universe cannot flow through that. So you have to get your head into it also. You have to have the emotional drive within your head to get your head in the right direction. You have to believe, and you have to realize that every thought you have, there is two sides to that. So if you have a tough time believing in it, the opposite is also true. But when you're not believing it, you're attracting the side of everything that won't allow it to happen. And even though your heart's into doing it, because your head isn't, they cancel each other out. You have to line up those batteries, and then the energy from the universe can flow through you, and things that you never expected happening will start to come to you. And if anything in your life is not going the way you think it should, it's because you don't have polarity. So you have to have polarity on everything that you do. You not only have to get your heart involved, but you have to get your head involved. And that's why dreams and goals are so important, because it's easy to get our heart into dreams and goals. It's easy to sit back and say, God, I'd love to have that Corvette, or I'd love to have that big house, or I'd love to have this job that pays $100,000 plus a year. It's easy to get our hearts into it and see and feel what that would be like. But until you write it down and you make sense of it, and you get a constant direction in one way with your head, you can't get that polarity, and it's not going to happen for you. And if you're struggling with that, if you're struggling getting your head into it, it's because you're taking too big of steps. You need to break it down into much smaller steps, and then celebrate every little tiny step that you take, and then your head starts to get into it because it starts to believe. And your heart is already there, so it's just a matter of getting your head into it. And then you get the polarity, and it starts to get easier and easier and easier. Have you ever noticed that when you're doing something, when you're working on something, that as you work on it, it continues to get easier and easier and easier as you're doing it? It's because you start to believe. When you first start a project, maybe you don't fully believe, but if you've got a layout of what needs to be done, and you got the first step, and you accomplish that, then you accomplish the next step, and the next step, and the next step, and the next step. Each time you accomplish a step, you start to believe more and more, and it gets easier and easier, and things starts to come to you, thoughts start to come to you. So that is very important. It's called the law of polarity, and it's very closely related to the law of attraction. Because once your polar is aligned, now you have the ability to attract through energy, and it starts to make things easier. And then for every action, you have an equal and opposite reaction. So you have to take action. Once the polarity is there, once you've got everything lined up, it doesn't do you any good until you take action. And then you have to have compensation. You have to put enough effort in that you compensate that transfer to you, so that the universe stays in balance. So polarity, you have to have polarity. It's not enough just to have your heart into it. You have to have your head into it also. But you have to break it down into small steps, because momentum, change requires change. You have to change something in your life to get change. And until you believe, you're not going to take that step for change. So you have to take small steps, and you have to create momentum in your own life. When you create momentum, it increases your belief system, and you can only take action up to, or maybe stretch your belief system a little bit. But as you create that momentum, your belief system goes up and it allows you to achieve more and more. And that's why it seems like when you first start a project, maybe it's a little hard to get into it. But as you do it, and you take small steps and you clearly put a plan in front of you with a bunch of different little steps, each one seems to get easier and easier until you get to the end of it. You're like, well, that wasn't that bad. That's called polarity. So I appreciate you joining me tonight. I see we got a few people on here tonight. We got Chad, we got David Meyer, James Rodriguez, Jen Solinas, Jonathan Fowler. I appreciate you guys being on here. I saw some other people come on too. They might be here. I don't always get to see who's on here, but if anybody else is on here, I appreciate you being here. I hope you enjoyed this message. Hope you have a super fantastic evening. If you like this message, look for more of them. I'll be doing this every night at 7 o'clock. I also have a message during the day. I put a question on Facebook every day. And then 2 or 3 days after that, after people had a chance to put their messages in there, I'll choose a message off of there and share it with everybody and my take on it. So look for those videos during the day too. And but once again, have a super fantastic evening. I hope this finds you well. If you have an idea of something you'd like me to talk about or a challenge in your life that you'd like for me to talk about, I don't necessarily have to talk about it you in the first person. I can put some other names in there. But if you have an idea, something you'd like to hear, it's likely other people do also. If you've got an issue like that, it's the law of the universe. You're not the only one feeling that, probably. But if you have that, send it to me at mike@inspiredmotivatedleadership.com. I'd love to go over that. Or you can text me on Messenger or send me a message right on here. Also Facebook or my Inspired Motivated Leadership Facebook page also. Have a good evening, and we will talk to you soon.